Ethiopia, land of fearless warriors, legendary leaders, and military brilliance. For centuries, Ethiopian generals have led armies to victory, defying colonial invasions, resisting foreign powers, and shaping the destiny of a nation. But who were the greatest among them? From the masterminds behind Ethiopia's historic victories to modern military legends who shaped Africa's strongest army, today, we're counting down the top 10 greatest Ethiopian generals of all time. And trust me, you don't want to miss number 1. It might just change how you see Ethiopian history forever. Before we begin, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload on Ethiopia's incredible history. Number 10. General Tesfa Gabri 1935 to 2004. General Tesfa Gabri was a high-ranking Ethiopian military officer and politician who played a crucial role in Ethiopia's political and military landscape during the rule of the Derg regime, 1974 to 1991. He briefly served as acting president of Ethiopia in 1991, at a time when the country was collapsing into civil war and the Derg was losing power. His life was marked by military service, political turmoil, and a dramatic downfall. Tesfa Gabri was born in 1935 in Ethiopia, but little is known about his early life. He joined the Ethiopian military at a young age and trained as a professional soldier. He became one of the officers who benefited from Emperor Haile Selassie's efforts to modernize the Ethiopian army. He received advanced military training, likely both in Ethiopia and abroad. During Emperor Haile Selassie's rule, Tesfa rose through the ranks of the army. By the early 1970s, he had established himself as a loyal and skilled military officer. However, his career took a significant turn in 1974 when Emperor Haile Selassie was overthrown by the Derg, a military junta that took power and ruled Ethiopia with an iron fist for the next 17 years. After the Derg seized power, Tesfa aligned himself with Colonel Mengistu Haile Mariam, who eventually became the country's dictator. Tesfa was one of Mengistu's close allies and was appointed Minister of Defense, making him one of the most powerful figures in the military. As Minister of Defense, Tesfa played a key role in suppressing opposition groups, including the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Party, EPRP, Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, TPLF, Eritrean People's Liberation Front, EPLF, Oromo Liberation Front, OLF. He was involved in the Red Terror Campaign, 1977 to 1978, a brutal crackdown on political opponents that resulted in thousands of deaths. Throughout the 1980s, he commanded government forces in Ethiopia's wars against Eritrean separatists and Tigrayan rebels. By the late 1980s, the Derg was weakening due to a worsening economy, growing rebel movements, the loss of Soviet Union support after the Cold War ended. As Ethiopia's military situation deteriorated, Mengistu lost trust in many of his generals, including Tesfaye, and started relying on a smaller circle of loyalists. On May 21, 1991, as rebel forces were closing in on Addis Ababa, Mengistu Haile Mariam fled Ethiopia to Zimbabwe, leaving the government in chaos. Before leaving, Mengistu appointed Tesfa Gabri as acting president of Ethiopia. Tesfa's presidency lasted only 6 days, May 21st, May 27th, 1991. He had almost no real power, as the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, EPRDF, rebels were about to capture the capital. He attempted to negotiate with the rebels but failed to reach any agreement. On May 27, 1991, the EPRDF forces entered Addis Ababa, forcing Tesfa to flee. This marked the official end of the Derg regime, and Tesfa's brief rule was over. After the fall of Addis Ababa, Tesfa fled to the Italian embassy in Addis Ababa, where he sought political asylum. The Ethiopian government, now led by the EPRDF under Meles Zenawi, wanted to arrest him for his role in the Derg's crimes, including the Red Terror. However, the Italian embassy refused to hand him over, citing international asylum rules. Tesfa lived in the Italian embassy for 13 years, 1991 to 2004, under strict security and limited freedom. He reportedly suffered from health problems and mental distress during his long isolation. In 2004, Tesfa Gabri died under unclear circumstances. Some reports say he was injured in a fight with another ex-Derg official who was also hiding in the embassy. Others claim he died from illness or old age after years of stress and isolation. The Ethiopian government did not allow him a state burial, and he remains one of the most controversial figures in Ethiopian history. For many Ethiopians, Tesfa is remembered as a brutal enforcer of the Derg's rule, responsible for countless deaths. Others see him as a loyal soldier who followed orders but was caught in political chaos. His dramatic fall from power, followed by 13 years of isolation, symbolizes the fate of many Derg officials after the regime collapsed. His life reflects the dangers of military dictatorship, political loyalty, and the consequences of ruthless rule. His presidency, lasting only 6 days, is one of the shortest in Ethiopian history. General Tesfa Gabri was a key military leader in Ethiopia's modern history, serving as Minister of Defense under the Derg and briefly as acting president in 1991. His life ended in isolation and controversy, making him one of the most mysterious and tragic figures of the Derg era, whether seen as a loyal soldier or a brutal enforcer. His story is a cautionary tale of power, war, and the price of political loyalty. Number 9. General Samora Yunus. General Samora Muhammad Yunus is one of Ethiopia's most influential and longest-serving military leaders. As the Chief of General Staff of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, ENDF, from 2001 to 2018, he played a crucial role in modernizing Ethiopia's military and leading major military operations, including the Ethiopia-Eritrea War, 1998-2000, and operations against al-Shabaab in Somalia. His tenure shaped Ethiopia's defense policies for nearly 2 decades. General Samora, born 1952 in the Tigray region, Ethiopia. In the 1970s, Samora Yunus joined the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, TPLF, a Marxist-Leninist rebel movement fighting against the Derg regime of Mengistu Haile Mariam. He played a major role as a military commander within the TPLF and the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, EPRDF. By the 1980s, he was one of the top military leaders coordinating guerrilla warfare against the Derg. In 1991, the EPRDF, with Samora Yunus as one of its key military leaders, overthrew the Derg and captured Addis Ababa. The transitional government of Ethiopia was established under Meles Zenawi, with the TPLF dominating key military and political positions. After the fall of the Derg, Samora was integrated into the newly formed Ethiopian National Defense Forces, ENDF. He quickly rose through the ranks, becoming one of Ethiopia's most powerful generals. In 1998, war broke out between Ethiopia and Eritrea over the disputed Badme region. Samora Yunus was one of Ethiopia's top military commanders during the war. Under his leadership, Ethiopia's army pushed Eritrean forces back, leading to a military victory in 2000. After the war, he was promoted due to his successful military strategy. In 2001, he was appointed Chief of General Staff of the ENDF, making him the highest-ranking military officer in Ethiopia. As Chief of General Staff, Samora restructured and modernized Ethiopia's military. He emphasized technological advancements, intelligence, and counter-insurgency strategies. Strengthened Ethiopia's Special Forces and Air Force. In 2006, Ethiopian forces invaded Somalia to remove the Islamic Courts Union, ICU, which Ethiopia saw as a threat. Under Samora's leadership, Ethiopian troops captured Mogadishu and defeated the ICU. However, the rise of al-Shabaab prolonged Ethiopia's military presence in Somalia. Samora played a key role in suppressing insurgencies in the Oromo Liberation Front, OLF, the Ogaden National Liberation Front, ONLF, various anti-government groups in Ethiopia. Even after the 2000 peace agreement, tensions with Eritrea remained high. Samora maintained a strong military presence along the border until 2018. In 2018, Samora retired as Chief of General Staff after serving 17 years. He was replaced by General Seir Mekonnen following political reforms by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. After retirement, Samora remained low profile and has not been active in politics. Some reports suggest he still has influence in Ethiopia's military affairs. Samora served longer than any other Ethiopian military chief, from 2001 to 2018. He oversaw major military, conflicts, and internal security operations. Supporters see him as a strong, effective military leader who defended Ethiopia's sovereignty. Critics accuse him of suppressing political dissent and human rights abuses during counterinsurgency operations. General Samora Yunus is one of Ethiopia's most powerful and influential military figures. As Chief of General Staff for 17 years, he played a major role in modernizing Ethiopia's military, leading wars in Eritrea and Somalia, and maintaining national security. While some view him as a patriotic military strategist, others see him as a hardliner who prioritized military strength over human rights. Number 8. General Amon Mikael Andom. General Amon Mikael Andom was an Ethiopian military leader, statesman, and war hero who played a key role in the 1974 Ethiopian Revolution. He briefly served as the first chairman of the Derg and acting head of state of Ethiopia from September to November 1974, after the overthrow of Emperor Haile Selassie IV. However, his leadership was short-lived due to conflicts with the Derg and Mengistu Haile Mariam, leading to his assassination in November 1974. General Amon Mikael Andom, born 1924, in Eritrea, which was then under Italian colonial rule. Eritrean descent, but identified as Ethiopian. He attended military training in Ethiopia and later studied in the United Kingdom at the Sandhurst Military Academy, one of the most prestigious military institutions in the world. He joined the Ethiopian Imperial Army under Emperor Haile Selassie I and quickly rose through the ranks. Known for his discipline, strategic intelligence, and leadership skills, gained fame as a war hero during Ethiopia's conflicts, particularly against Somalia and Eritrean separatists. In the 1960s, Eritrean nationalists, particularly the Eritrean Liberation Front, ELF, began fighting for independence from Ethiopia. Amon Andom was appointed commander of Ethiopian forces in Eritrea, tasked with suppressing the rebellion. Amon believed that Eritrea's war for independence could not be solved militarily and advocated for a negotiated settlement. Emperor Haile Selassie disagreed and wanted a harsh military crackdown on Eritrean separatists. This conflict of views led to Amon falling out of favor with the imperial government. In the early 1970s, Amon was forced into retirement by Haile Selassie. In September 1974, a group of military officers known as the Derg, led by Mengistu Haile Mariam, overthrew Emperor Haile Selassie. The Derg needed a respected figure to lead the new government, and Amon Andom was chosen as the first chairman of the Derg and acting head of state of Ethiopia. Amon was not a communist and wanted a moderate government. He tried to limit the Derg's power and prevent mass executions of imperial officials. He also opposed the execution of Haile Selassie, arguing that he should be put on trial instead of killed. The biggest conflict between Amon and the Derg was over Eritrea. Amon wanted peace negotiations with Eritrean rebels, but Mengistu and hardline members of the Derg wanted total war. This disagreement led to serious tensions within the military junta. The Derg, under Mengistu's influence, wanted to execute 60 officials of the imperial government. Amon strongly opposed the mass killings, arguing that Ethiopia needed stability. Despite His protests, the Derg carried out the executions in November 1974, further isolating Amon. Amon lost support within the Derg as Mengistu and other radical officers sidelined him. He was placed under house arrest, and the Derg planned to remove him from power permanently. On November 23, 1974, Amon refused to surrender. To the Derg. A gunfight broke out between Amon's personal guards and Derg troops. After several hours of fighting, Amon was killed in his home. Official reports claimed he died by suicide, but most historians believe he was assassinated by Derg forces. After Amon's death, Mengistu Haile Mariam consolidated power, leading Ethiopia into a 17-year dictatorship. Ethiopia descended into more violence, repression, and civil war under the Derg's rule. Unlike Mengistu and the other Derg leaders, Amon was known for his moderation and sense of justice. He opposed mass killings and tried to prevent unnecessary violence, but was ultimately overpowered by the radical elements of the Derg. Amon believed that Eritrea's war could have been solved through negotiation, and his death removed any chance of a peaceful settlement. The Ethiopian government's hardline stance on Eritrea continued under the Derg, leading to decades of war and Eritrea's eventual independence in 1993. Amon was one of the most respected Ethiopian generals, but his leadership was cut short by the power struggles within the Derg. His assassination symbolized the Derg's transition into a ruthless dictatorship, dominated by Mengistu Haile Mariam. General Amon Mikhail Andom was a brilliant military leader and patriot who tried to steer Ethiopia towards moderation and stability after the fall of Emperor Haile Selassie. However, his disagreements with the radical elements of the Derg, particularly over Eritrea and mass executions, led to his assassination in 1974. His death marked the beginning of the Derg's brutal rule, shaping Ethiopia's history for decades to come. Number 7. Raz Kassa, Haile Darge, 1881 to 1956. Raz Kassa Haile was a prominent Ethiopian nobleman, military leader, and statesman who played a key role in Ethiopia's early 20th century politics. He was a close relative and advisor to Emperor Haile Selassie I, serving in high-ranking positions in government and the military. Raz Kassa was deeply involved in the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, 1935 to 1936, Ethiopia's resistance against Italian occupation, 1936 to 1941, and the post-war reconstruction of Ethiopia. Raz Kassa Haile, born 1881 in Ethiopia. He was a member of the Ethiopian nobility and belonged to the Shiwan aristocracy, closely linked to Emperor Menelik II. Raised in a noble environment, Kassa received military and administrative training under Emperor Menelik II and other key figures of the Ethiopian Empire. Kassa began his career under Emperor Menelik II and later served Emperor Haile Selassie I. He gained prominence through his military leadership and governance skills, becoming one of the most trusted officials in Haile Selassie's administration. In 1935, Italian dictator Benito Mussolini ordered the invasion of Ethiopia under Marshal Pietro Badoglio. Raz Kassa was one of the top Ethiopian commanders leading forces against the Italians. One of the major battles of the war, where Raz Kassa led Ethiopian forces in the Tigray region. Despite fierce Ethiopian resistance, Italy's superior weaponry, chemical warfare, mustard gas, and air power led to Ethiopia's defeat. Raz Kassa and other Ethiopian generals, including Emperor Haile Selassie, attempted to stop the Italian advance. The battle ended in an Ethiopian defeat, forcing Haile Selassie to go into exile in Britain. After Ethiopia was occupied by Italy, Raz Kassa refused to surrender and became a leader in the Ethiopian resistance. He organized guerrilla warfare against Italian forces in different parts of Ethiopia. The resistance efforts helped maintain Ethiopian national identity and morale until the liberation in 1941. In 1941, British and Ethiopian forces launched a campaign to liberate Ethiopia from Italian rule. Raz Kassa played a significant role in reorganizing Ethiopian resistance forces and assisting the British military effort. Addis Ababa was liberated in May 1941, and Emperor Haile Selassie returned to power. After liberation, Raz Kassa was given high-ranking government roles under Haile Selassie's administration. He served as governor of several key regions and remained an advisor to the emperor. He supported Haile Selassie's efforts in modernizing Ethiopia, including reforms in the military, education, and administration. He played a role in rebuilding the country after the devastation caused by the Italian occupation. Raz Kassa died in 1956, leaving behind a legacy of loyalty, resistance, and national service. Raz Kassa is remembered as a dedicated Ethiopian nobleman and military leader who fought against colonial invasion. His efforts in the Second Italo-Ethiopian War and the resistance movement were crucial in maintaining Ethiopia's sovereignty. He remains a symbol of patriotism and resistance in Ethiopian history. Raz Kassa Haile was a warrior, statesman, and loyal Ethiopian patriot. His role in fighting against the Italian invasion, organizing the resistance, and rebuilding Ethiopia after liberation solidifies his place as one of Ethiopia's most respected historical figures. Number 6. Ras Gobena Dace, 1821 to 1889, was a key military leader and political figure during the reign of Emperor Menelik II of Ethiopia. He played a pivotal role in consolidating the Ethiopian Empire, particularly through military campaigns, and his efforts to unify the southern regions of the country under imperial rule. Gobena Dace was born in 1821 in the Shewan region of Ethiopia, specifically in the Oromo-inhabited areas. He belonged to the Tulama-Oromo subgroup, which had a significant presence in central Ethiopia. Little is known about his early life, but Gobena emerged during a time when Shewa was undergoing internal political transformations under King Selassie, and later, his successor, Haile Melekot. As a young man, Gobena aligned himself with the Shewan kingdom, where he rose through the ranks as a loyal military commander. His early allegiance to Menelik II, who was then the king of Shewa, before becoming emperor of Ethiopia, proved instrumental in shaping both his personal legacy and the political trajectory of the Ethiopian state. Gobena is best known for his military and administrative contributions to the unification of Ethiopia during Menelik II's reign. He played a significant role in expanding the Ethiopian Empire into the southern regions, which included large swaths of Oromo, Sidama, Guragi, Wolaita, and other territories. Gobena led several military expeditions to bring various regions under the control of the Ethiopian state. His campaigns were marked by a combination of military force and diplomacy, as he sought alliances with local leaders while subjugating those who resisted. His ability to organize effective military campaigns was critical to the success of Menelik II's broader expansionist strategy. Gobena's relationship with Menelik II was one of mutual benefit. Menelik relied on Gobena's military expertise and knowledge of Oromo regions to consolidate his authority. Gobena's leadership among the Oromo helped to integrate the Oromo population into the Ethiopian state, although this integration often came at the cost of autonomy for local leaders. After subduing various regions, Gobena was often appointed as the governor or administrator of those areas, tasked with maintaining order and collecting tribute for the central government. His governance style combined traditional Oromo practices with the administrative structures of the Ethiopian Empire, facilitating a smoother transition for many of the newly incorporated regions. Ras Gobena remains a polarizing figure in Ethiopian history. While some regard him as a unifier who helped lay the foundations of modern Ethiopia, others view his actions as emblematic of the subjugation and exploitation of southern Ethiopia by the northern, predominantly Amhara ruling class. Gobena is celebrated for his role in helping Menelik II build a strong, centralized Ethiopian state. His efforts ensured that Ethiopia remained independent during a time of European colonization in Africa, contributing to the nation's victory at the Battle of Adwa, 1896, though Gobena had passed away by then. Gobena's role in the conquest of southern Ethiopia has been criticized by Oromo nationalists and others who view him as a collaborator with Menelik II in the subjugation of his own people. The expansion campaigns he led often resulted in displacement, loss of autonomy, and significant suffering for the populations involved. Ras Gobena's legacy has sparked debates about Ethiopian history and identity, particularly regarding the integration of the Oromo people into the Ethiopian state. His life highlights the complexities of loyalty, power dynamics, and the challenges of state building in a diverse and multi-ethnic society. Ras Gobena Dace died in 1889, shortly before Menelik II ascended to the imperial throne as Emperor of Ethiopia. His death marked the end of a significant chapter in the consolidation of Ethiopia. By the time of his passing, Gobena had secured his place as one of Menelik's most trusted and influential commanders, leaving behind a legacy that would shape the future of the Ethiopian Empire. Ras Gobena's life was a reflection of the turbulent 19th century in Ethiopia, a period marked by state formation, expansion, and conflict. While his contributions to the Ethiopian Empire's growth are undeniable, his role in the subjugation of southern Ethiopia has sparked enduring debates about collaboration, resistance, and the cost of nation building. Gobena's story remains central to understanding the complex and often contentious history of modern Ethiopia. Number 5. Dejazmaj Balcha Safo. Balcha Safo, also known as Balcha Aba Nefso, was born into a warrior society in the Guduru Oromia region of Ethiopia. His early life was shaped by the values of loyalty, courage, and pride in his Oromo heritage. Balcha was known for his physical strength, strategic mind, and unwavering dedication to the Ethiopian Empire, which earned him a reputation as one of the most formidable warriors of his time. Balcha began his military career as a soldier in the army of Emperor Menelik II. His bravery and skill during battles quickly earned him recognition and promotion. Within the ranks, Balcha's achievements in military campaigns and his leadership abilities led to him being granted the title Dejazmaj, a high-ranking nobility title equivalent to Commander of the Gate. This made him one of the key regional military leaders in Ethiopia. Balcha Safo played a significant role in the Battle of Adwa, where Ethiopian forces decisively defeated Italian invaders. As one of Menelik II's trusted commanders, Balcha led his troops with exceptional courage, contributing to Ethiopia's historic victory over colonial forces. After the Battle of Adwa, Balcha was appointed governor of the Sidamo province, a role in which he demonstrated both military and administrative skills. As governor, he was known for his efforts to maintain order and his strong resistance to foreign influences. During Emperor Haile Selassie's modernization efforts in the early 20th century, Balcha's conservative stance often clashed with the emperor's vision of reform. Balcha was deeply committed to traditional Ethiopian values and was wary of reforms that he believed threatened Ethiopia's sovereignty and traditional governance structures. When Italy invaded Ethiopia in 1935 during the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, Balcha Safo emerged as a key leader of Ethiopian resistance. Despite being in his 70s, he continued to inspire and lead troops against the invading Italian forces, demonstrating his unwavering patriotism. In 1936, during the Italian occupation of Ethiopia, Balcha Safo was surrounded by Italian forces near the town of Ziwe. Refusing to surrender, he reportedly said, "I will not die as a prisoner. I will die as a warrior." Balcha died heroically in combat, becoming a martyr for Ethiopian resistance. Balcha's death symbolized Ethiopia's indomitable spirit against colonial oppression. His sacrifice inspired continued resistance against Italian rule, ultimately contributing to Ethiopia's liberation in 1941. Dejazmaj Balcha Safo is remembered as a symbol of Ethiopian resistance and patriotism. His life embodied the struggle to preserve Ethiopia's sovereignty and traditional values. Stories of Balcha's bravery are immortalized in Ethiopian oral history, songs, and literature. His name is synonymous with courage, loyalty, and the defense of Ethiopia's independence. Balcha's resistance to foreign domination and his commitment to Ethiopian unity continue to serve as an inspiration for Ethiopians today. Number 4. Fitaurari Gabeyo. Abai. Fitaurari Gabeyo. Abai was born 1840s in the rugged highlands of Mons, a region known for its military traditions and patriotism. Raised in a farming and warrior community, he was instilled with a deep sense of loyalty to his homeland and the Ethiopian Orthodox faith. These values shaped his unwavering commitment to Ethiopia's independence and sovereignty throughout his life. Gabeyo began his military career during the reign of Emperor Tewodros II, serving as a local warrior in campaigns aimed at unifying Ethiopia. His courage, discipline, and tactical prowess gained him recognition, and he steadily rose through the ranks. Under Emperor Menelik II, Gabeyo earned the title of Fitaurari, meaning Commander of the Vanguard. This prestigious title placed him in charge of leading the Ethiopian army's first line of attack during battles, a testament to his exceptional leadership skills and trustworthiness. Gabeyo became one of Menelik II's most trusted military leaders during a time when Ethiopia faced existential threats from European colonial powers. His reputation as a fearless and skilled commander made him a critical figure in Menelik's plans to defend Ethiopian sovereignty. By the late 19th century, Ethiopia was under threat from Italy, which sought to colonize the country after signing the Treaty of Wuchale in 1889. A mistranslation in the treaty's Amharic and Italian versions led to a diplomatic crisis, with Italy claiming Ethiopia as a protectorate. Emperor Menelik II mobilized the nation to resist Italian aggression. Fitaurari Gabeyo played a key role in organizing and mobilizing Ethiopia's forces, particularly the vanguard units. Known for his ability to inspire troops, Gabeyo emphasized discipline and unity among the diverse Ethiopian forces. On March 1, 1896, at Adwa, Gabeyo led the vanguard of the Ethiopian army against the Italian forces. Facing heavily armed and technologically superior Italian troops, Gabeyo's unit engaged in intense combat. His fearless leadership and strategic maneuvers disrupted the Italian lines, paving the way for a decisive Ethiopian victory. During the fierce fighting, Gabeyo was struck down while leading his troops on the front lines. His death became a symbol of Ethiopian resistance and inspired the rest of the army to fight with renewed determination. Despite his death, the Ethiopians, under Emperor Menelik II, achieved a historic victory, defeating the Italians and preserving Ethiopia's independence. Fitaurari Gabeyo Abai is celebrated as one of Ethiopia's greatest military heroes. His sacrifice at Adwa symbolizes the courage and unity of Ethiopians in resisting colonialism. He remains a key figure in Ethiopian history, honored for his leadership, bravery, and loyalty. The victory at Adwa, achieved in part due to Gabeyo's efforts, cemented Ethiopia's status as the only African nation to successfully resist European colonization during the scramble for Africa. His role in the battle is a source of national pride and serves as an inspiration for future generations. Fitaurari Gabeyo is remembered in Ethiopian oral histories, songs, and literature. Streets, schools, and public places in Ethiopia have been named in his honor, ensuring that his legacy endures. Number 3. General Tadesse Biru. General Tadesse Biru was born 1921 in Salali province into a family of Oromo heritage. Growing up in a rural Ethiopian highland setting, Tadesse experienced the rich cultural traditions of his people. These formative years instilled in him a sense of justice, discipline, and pride in Ethiopia's legacy of independence and resistance against colonial powers. Tadesse Biru joined the Ethiopian Imperial Army under Emperor Haile Selassie's reign. Known for his dedication, physical endurance, and strategic acumen, he quickly climbed the ranks. Tadesse was a key figure in transforming Ethiopia's military into a modern fighting force. He played a leading role in organizing and training the Kubur Zebegna, Imperial Bodyguard, an elite unit of highly trained soldiers tasked with protecting the emperor and performing critical national security missions. Tadesse also contributed to Ethiopia's military strategy during conflicts such as the Ogaden conflict with Somalia, helping to secure Ethiopian borders and strengthen national sovereignty. In the early 1960s, General Tadesse Biru became an instructor for Ethiopian military and security forces. During this period, Ethiopia supported various African liberation movements, including the African National Congress, ANC, of South Africa. In 1962, Nelson Mandela traveled to Ethiopia under the pseudonym David Motsamai to receive military training as part of his preparation for the armed struggle against apartheid. General Tadesse Biru was one of Mandela's instructors during his stay in Ethiopia. Tadesse trained Mandela in guerrilla warfare, handling firearms, and military strategy. Mandela later described his time in Ethiopia as transformative, and he acknowledged the support and mentorship of Ethiopian leaders like Tadesse Biru. The general not only taught Mandela military tactics, but also instilled in him the values of resilience, discipline, and the importance of liberation movements working together for freedom across the African continent. After his military career, Tadesse Biru became an advocate for Oromo rights. He promoted the recognition of Oromo culture, language, and identity, emphasizing the importance of equality and representation within Ethiopia. Tadesse's growing influence and his advocacy for the Oromo people led to tensions with the central government under Emperor Haile Selassie. In the early 1960s, he was accused of conspiring against the government and was subsequently arrested. His imprisonment made him a symbol of resistance among the Oromo and other marginalized groups. Following his release from prison, Tadesse Biru remained a prominent figure in Ethiopian politics. However, his activities were closely monitored by the government. After the overthrow of Emperor Haile Selassie in 1974, the Derg regime came to power. While initially hopeful that the new government would bring change, Tadesse became a target due to his influence and reputation. In 1975, Tadesse Biru was arrested and executed by the Derg regime. His death marked the loss of a national hero and a voice for justice and equality. Tadesse Biru is remembered as a national hero who dedicated his life to Ethiopia's sovereignty and the empowerment of its people. His role in training Nelson Mandela cemented his legacy as an African hero who contributed to the broader struggle for freedom across the continent. Tadesse remains a symbol of Oromo resistance and pride. His efforts to promote equality and cultural recognition continue to inspire movements advocating for justice in Ethiopia. His work in modernizing Ethiopia's military and training future leaders left a lasting impact on the country's defense forces. Number 2. General Balai. Zaka. General Balai Zaka was born 1912 in Gojam, a region known for its fierce warriors and patriotism. He grew up in a farming family and was deeply influenced by Ethiopia's history of independence and resistance against foreign invaders. Although he did not receive formal education, his natural leadership skills, charisma, and intelligence made him a prominent figure in his community. Balai Zalaka's rise to fame came during the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, 1935 to 1936, and the subsequent Italian occupation, 1936 to 1941. After the defeat of the Ethiopian army at the hands of Mussolini's forces, Emperor Haile Selassie fled to exile. While many areas of the country were subdued by the Italians, resistance against the occupation continued, with Balai Zalaka emerging as one of the most prominent guerrilla leaders. Balai Zalaka refused to accept Italian occupation and became a central figure in leading the Ethiopian resistance movement. Operating in the rugged terrain of Gojam, he organized a large group of fighters who launched guerrilla attacks on Italian forces, disrupting their control over the region. His knowledge of the local geography allowed him to execute surprise attacks and ambushes that severely weakened Italian morale. Balai Zalaka was not only a military leader, but also a unifier. He inspired the local population to resist occupation, recruiting farmers, villagers, and even former soldiers into his army. His charisma and dedication to Ethiopia's freedom made him a symbol of hope for his people. Under Balai's leadership, Gojam became one of the most resistant regions to Italian rule. He successfully cut off Italian supply lines and defeated Italian garrisons, making Gojam nearly ungovernable for the Italians. His success inspired resistance movements in other parts of Ethiopia. During the final phase of the Italian occupation, Balai Zalaka's forces supported the British and Ethiopian joint efforts to liberate the country in 1941. His contributions were crucial in disrupting Italian defenses, paving the way for Emperor Haile Selassie's return to power. After the liberation of Ethiopia in 1941, Balai Zalaka was initially celebrated as a national hero for his role in resisting the Italians. However, his independent nature and popularity among the people made him a political challenge for Emperor Haile Selassie's government. Balai's insistence on local autonomy in Gojam and his opposition to central authority led to tensions with the imperial government. In 1944, Balai Zalaka was accused of rebellion against the central government. After a confrontation with the imperial authorities, he was arrested and sentenced to death. Despite his significant contributions to Ethiopia's liberation, he was executed in Debre Marcos, Gojam, in the same year. His execution caused widespread outrage, and many Ethiopians viewed it as an injustice against a true patriot. Balai Zalaka's death marked the tragic end of a hero who dedicated his life to Ethiopia's independence. Balai Zalaka is remembered as one of Ethiopia's greatest patriots. His courage and leadership during the Italian occupation earned him a place in the hearts of Ethiopians. He is often celebrated as a symbol of resistance and the unyielding spirit of the Ethiopian people. His story continues to inspire Ethiopians, especially those who value independence, freedom, and resistance against oppression. Songs, poems, and oral histories have immortalized his legacy. In Gojam, Balai Zalaka remains a regional icon, celebrated for his role in defending his homeland and challenging foreign domination. Number 1. General Ras Alula Ena, Aba Nega. Ras Alula Ena, popularly known as Aba Nega, was born around 1844 to humble parents in the Tigray region of Ethiopia. He grew up in a modest farming family and had little formal education, but showed remarkable intelligence and strategic thinking from a young age. His early life experiences in Tembien gave him a deep understanding of the mountainous terrain, which would later influence his military tactics. Alula started as a servant to Emperor Johannes IV, when Johannes was a regional leader, known then as Dejazmaj Kassa Merja. Recognizing Alula's talents, Kassa promoted him to positions of increasing responsibility, culminating in the title of Ras, one of the highest-ranking positions in Ethiopia. His rise to prominence was marked by his loyalty, bravery, and unmatched military prowess. Ras Alula became the chief military commander under Emperor Johannes IV, tasked with defending Ethiopia's borders and maintaining its sovereignty. One of Ras Alula's earliest and most famous victories was against the invading Egyptian forces. At the Battle of Gunday, the Egyptians, equipped with modern weapons, sought to expand their territory into Ethiopian lands. Ras Alula used his deep knowledge of the terrain to ambush the Egyptians in a narrow valley, decisively defeating them and protecting Ethiopia's sovereignty. Following their defeat at Gunday, the Egyptians launched another invasion. Ras Alula once again led the Ethiopian forces to victory at the Battle of Gura. His tactical brilliance and leadership ensured Ethiopia remained free from Egyptian domination. Ras Alula played a key role in this battle against Sudanese Mahdist forces, who sought to expand their influence into Ethiopia. His successful campaign protected Ethiopia's western borders and further solidified his reputation as a brilliant military leader. Ras Alula is perhaps best remembered for his decisive victory against Italian forces at the Battle of Dogali. With only 5,000 troops, he defeated an Italian army of over 500, despite their superior weaponry. This victory sent a clear message to European powers that Ethiopia would fiercely resist colonization. Ras Alula was one of Emperor Johannes IV's most trusted generals. He was deeply loyal to the emperor and played a crucial role in consolidating Johannes's rule. When Emperor Johannes IV died at the Battle of Metema in 1889, Ras Alula continued to fight to protect Ethiopia's independence under the new emperor, Menelik II, although his influence diminished as power shifted southward to Shewa. After Johannes IV's death, Ras Alula faced political challenges and was sidelined by the emerging power structure under Emperor Menelik II. Despite this, he remained a respected figure and a symbol of Ethiopian resistance. Ras Alula Ena passed away in 1897 in Asmara, Eritrea, where he had retired. His death marked the end of an era, but his legacy as one of Ethiopia's greatest generals endures. Ras Alula is regarded as one of Ethiopia's greatest military strategists. His victories against foreign powers, despite being outnumbered and outgunned, earned him the nickname, the Garibaldi of Ethiopia. His life and achievements symbolize Ethiopia's ability to resist colonization during a period when most African nations fell under European rule. Ras Alula's courage and leadership continue to inspire Ethiopians, and he is celebrated as a national hero. Statues, schools, and streets are named in his honor across Ethiopia. And there you have it, Ethiopia's top 10 greatest generals. These warriors shaped the course of history, leading their armies with bravery, strategy, and determination. But now, we want to hear from you. Did we miss anyone? Who do you think should be number one on this list? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you love Ethiopian history and legendary warriors, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us here at Tales of Ethiopia, where we bring you the untold stories of Ethiopia's greatest legends. Don't forget to like, share, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story about Ethiopia's legendary past. Until next time, stay proud, stay legendary,